Welcome back to the podcast. Today we've got Anthony from Saver Guyana. He is one of my really good friends and excited about talking about, what does it mean to really eat food, right? Some people eat and some people really taste food. And today we're going to talk about what it means to find food that brings back the meaning of life, to really live through the amazing food that we have. And I'm so excited to have Anthony on the podcast. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
That's awesome. First of all, we're going to tell everybody, say your last name for me.
My last name is Man-Son-Hing.
But say it the way you would normally say it if you were Asian.
So it's Chinese background, descending from the last name in China would be Man. So the name is actually a full name that would be said as Man-Shan-Jin. But in Guyana, it's known as Man-Son-Hing, and it's come with us since then.
So it's awesome. As we've got to spend some great time together and discovering food as a journey, right? Like a lot of us have food for substance, right? And we've done a great job as a society of creating the food for the masses, right? To build these civilizations that we have created lots of food to feed the masses and grow these amazing countries that we live in. And sometimes we've got to a place where, all right, just because we can eat a hamburger for $1, maybe we're starting to think, is that really living, right? Start to look at the foods and the way that we eat them and how they're starting to affect our bodies is starting to affect some of us, right?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And that's what this is all about, right? It's yeah. So from a taste perspective, it's almost like moving from black and white into Technicolor. You don't know that you're in the black and white until you get a different experience that wakes something up inside of you that you're like, where have I been all my life? And this is an amazing dish, an amazing experience that I want more of. So that's what we'd love to be able to share with you today.
Well, and I think just the passion for great food, in a world that's so busy and running around, we've grown so fast and all things we've accomplished. Some of us have lost that joy, the joy of great food. When I grew up in a home that food was such a celebration, right? I grew up in an Italian home where my grandmother and my mother and the foods they cooked were just these wonderful delights that would light up your soul.
Yes.
And, do we still feel those today?
Right. Exactly. That's the thing, right? So I have great memories also of my grandparents. My grandmother used to come to the school and pick me up and bring me to her house for lunch, and it was just down the street. But as you walked along the street, you could smell the different aromas coming from the windows and the houses along the way. And then I'd walk in and I'd have this wonderful, if it was a curry, it would be stewing on the stove, and the flatbreads, the rotis would be, fresh, being fried or made already. And we would just sit down and just dive into a wonderful experience of flavor, of memory that, it still awakens in me the memories of childhood, right? Even now.
But sometimes I hear it all the time. I'm just too busy to cook like that. I can't do that. I don't have the time. If you had the kids that I have and the business I have, I can't do that. Who's got the time to cook like that anymore, Anthony? Yeah,
it's true. That's true. And that's one of the challenges of today. A lot of people, even though they love, they have a passion or want to know this stuff, it's how do you do it and do it in a quick way, like an efficient way, so that it's ready. How many families are preparing meals on the weekends and then, have them all boxed or set out for the weekdays, or, plans are being made so that, mom and dad arrive back home and they have to put food on the table, because not only are you coming in tired from work, but you've got kids who are going off to sporting events and other activities and or meetings at night. So in between all of that, how do you get nutritious meals? How do you do that and have flavor in the midst of those meals as well, right? So some of the things that we are promoting is to tell you that it is possible to awaken those flavors and get them ready so that you can have them at any time of the day, right?
Well, I think that's the part that's a lot of fun, is that you really start to notice that if I put some thought to it, right? Just because I get caught up in a trap, right? I watch it all the time. We're all so busy. Oh my God, I'm so busy. Oh my God, I'm so busy. But if I start to notice right here, at least for me, I've noticed that when I go look at the amount of hours I spend scrolling, right?
Yeah.
The amount of time I spend on social media, it
Yeah.
kind of freaks me out a little,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I,
Exactly.
when I'm dealing with my addiction of social media,
Mm-hmm.
and I go, wait, you spent 6 hours on social media today?
Yeah.
How could, how much time was that invested
That's
in,
right.
in these places? And then I feel so unfulfilled. I feel so, so empty inside. It never quite gets there. Where I start to look at when you and I were cooking in the kitchen, it started with, it wasn't that hard to go get the pieces,
No.
right? We went to Costco, and I go to Costco all the time, but I never thought about doing the stuff that you and I did, right? The stuff that we went in Costco, and it's the same Costco that I go to almost every week,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
But we looked at the food with a new set of eyes.
That's right. Exactly.
And the things that we pulled out of there were were dancing on my taste buds.
Yep, exactly. So it's a different way of putting them together. Not necessarily that it's going to take longer, but reimagining the ingredients to make sure to make them come alive, right? So, we picked up mangoes and peppers and onions and we brought them home and mixed them up with a few more staples, some olive oil, some rice wine vinegar, a little bit of salt and pepper, and tossed it together. And it made an amazing mango salad,
Yeah, right. Well, what was also fun was integrating the children into it, right? When you also look at, that lost art of bringing a family together in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I kind of venture to say that one of the parts of the family creation is doing that work together.
Exactly.
The kids ultimately really do want to be part of it.
Yep.
Right. They want to give to the family.
That's right.
I spent some time just recently in Utah, and they're Mormons out there, and maybe I didn't quite understand the religion completely, but what I really did was I got their soul. I really got that, how much they loved their families.
Yep.
And I could get into that, right? And how much they loved saying, really getting that, where a world is celebrating that children are broken and parents are broken and a family is not together. They are saying, no, families want to be together.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the great places to do that adventure together is in the kitchen.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Get everybody involved. Kids can help in many different ways, maybe not necessarily with the cutting. If they're able to handle a knife, yes, but otherwise they can prepare the wonderful ingredients, bring them all together, throw them in the bowl, and then mix them all together. Every time is a new adventure, and it's the memories that you build and create in those times together that, kind of knit you together afterwards, because those are the memories you're going to remember afterwards, and you're going to tell stories about, and you're going to laugh about as family, right? So yeah, it's food, and, the passionate commitment to food and good food that tastes good, and has those positive experiences. Those give you, that the positive building blocks to look back at and say, hey, this was an amazing experience. We want more of it. Right?
Yeah. No, for sure. It took a little bit for me to say to the kids, hey, let's just take a minute. I had to literally detach them a little bit from their phones, right? Which I've had to do the same thing even at night with my reading. Yeah. Right. I noticed that, I've been an avid reader of a book a week, and all of a sudden for this last, call it year, my readings dropped dramatically. And,
right.
like I had to do something this last couple of weeks where I had to trick my brain into reading again.
Hmm.
And I've spent every night now reading again. But what the truth was, I found some steamy novels. Whether it was steamy novels, there were kind of some good books that were a little racy.
Yeah.
And but look, the point was whatever it takes to get reading again was to get the black and white letters in there. And I think the same thing happens with your kids. Whatever it takes to get them in the kitchen chopping, lower that bar, create the fun where
Yep.
they want to be involved, or whatever it takes to get them to the cutting board and cutting up vegetables and helping you out.
Yep.
How do we make it fun for them?
That's right. Exactly. And the more that they have those positive experiences that they're having fun with, the more they're going to want to come back and have other experiences, right? If they're bored, that's going to color it a different way, right? But if it's a positive experience, they're going to want more. And that's, and then they're going to hold on to those memories all through life, because if they have positive memories, that's going to be amazing. I mean, I've had those, and that's, and I keep going back to those and remembering them and saying, I want to share those now with others. Right. Yeah. It's an amazing
this
gift.
Beautiful space together. Yeah. Look, and I even say it's okay for them to work with a knife, right? If I train my kids right and look, obviously we're parents, you know how to be smart about it, but it's okay to let them do something a little bit more than they would normally do, but teach them how to cut a tomato, teach them how to cut a pepper, right? Look, if they cut it wrong, who cares? It's going to go in the recipe just fine.
That's right.
Let them, that's easy, cheap stuff to practice on, but
Yep.
they get to hold a knife and now they're, that feeling of,
Yep.
right. Isn't
Yep.
that what we're doing when we're watching stuff or playing video games?
That's right.
That's the lost art of accomplishment. Right.
Yes.
Conquering a level and moving up and getting to go to the now, mom, let me cut the peppers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, maybe it takes a couple seconds of teaching you how to, roll your fingers in, maybe teaches you not to do the shiny side out, cut the inside, you show them some technique, but
that's right.
it's a good interaction.
It is. It's amazing. That's right. And those can start from very young ages, when it doesn't matter whether it's grandkids or your own children. Start there. Start with where you're at, and, just build one experience on another. And the more positive energy that's put into it, the more that it's experienced that way, the more they're going to want to come back and learn, right? And you never know what kids will hear, even other adults who are around, what they'll hear or experience with what you're doing. But if they've had fun and if they've enjoyed the experience, they'll come back. They'll want more. And that's a wonderful gift.
It becomes this playground, and all the things that I think one of the surprising parts for me was when I noticed that part about being at the Costco and making these new recipes I didn't even imagine. Right. I get so caught up in efficiency, and look, my life's pretty damn efficient, right? I have a system I follow. It works pretty well.
Yeah.
But then you wonder why you're bored.
Yep.
Is you kind of get stuck in the same stuff. And now all of a sudden I'm walking at Costco with a chef like you, and just the discovery of, hey, try this. Hey, grab some of that. Put this one over here. Let's take a bag full of those onions. We're gonna try this with these mangoes. Oh, and you walked in. You're like, they have pre-cut mangoes. Holy cow!
Exactly.
Right? Like you almost started dancing ear to ear. And I'm like, what's he gonna make with this? We're gonna make onions and mangoes and bring those together. That salad was one of the most fun salads I ever had.
Yes, exactly. Even if I were to describe it, describe the flavors, some people would, say, no, you'd never put vinegar with a mango, never put, salt with these mixtures of herbs, spices, flavors are totally new in many cases. But that salad was beautiful because it's right off the bat, it's got lots of flavor. But even the next day, as it had some time to marry together the flavors, it changed subtly, but it was even better. It was like deepening and mellowing the flavors, which was amazing, right?
What was even more fun was I cooked them with the steak a couple days later.
Okay.
right? I threw them in with a steak I was making,
Okay.
and the caramelization of them,
Yes.
right, made it even more fun. I'm like,
Mm.
look at this! I make another little dish. It was something that wasn't there. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, as we look at food as a discovery, right? It's the same thing with life. I mean, how many of us get caught up in just life's boring? I can't, there's nothing to do, and there's literally a billion things I can do every day.
Yep.
It's really flexing that muscle of creativity, taking these ingredients and playing in a playground of discovery. It really starts to light it up again. And I believe it's going to bring, be able to bring your family back together when they see you and mom and dad being able to do that in the kitchen with foods. That starts a family type of experience that felt really right,
Yep.
doing that together as a family.
That's right. Exactly. That's the point of it all, right? And I think that's the whole point behind Saver Guyana for me, because it's, I remember, very fondly the experiences I had with my grandparents and my parents and the rest of my extended family while we were in Guyana. I was yet a young child, but even though, we traveled halfway around the world and we settled in the north of Ontario in Canada, we went from perpetual summer almost at the equator to 7 feet of snow in less than 6 months. That in itself was a shock. But we brought with us all of the experience, the richness of the heritage and culture that we brought with us, and came and found ourselves in a place where we had none of the access to the foods that we knew. That was totally different. So we had to bring the foods from, metropolitan areas like Toronto, and mom and dad would bring boxes of these, ingredients to our home. And then they'd go to the grocery store and find other ingredients that they could meld into it. Like our trip to Costco, you pick out things that you can use and then make them into wonderful creations, right? So my memories of cooking with my mom, cooking with my grandparents are amazing things that I still hold on to now. And
all right, so give me one. Give me one of the memories that, go back to a vivid memory of something you cooked with your mother or your grandmother.
So with my grandmother, my memory of walking into her kitchen and smelling the curry that's already there, or she'd have the bread for the rotis already, ready to fry. And then she would roll them out and I'd stand at the pan and, she'd say, just flip it. And, she taught me how to flip it and oil it and then take it off the pan and clap it so that it would break up into little pieces and fold it and then put all of this on the table. And then sitting at the table, take a little bit of the curry out of the serving bowl into your plate and either wrap it in the roti and then just eat it like just like a sandwich, or take the roti in pieces and pick it up off the plate, sop it up, right? I mean, when I came to Canada, I would even, it was foreign for us to think of eating curry and roti with a knife and a fork, because curry and roti are always eaten with your hands, right?
Yeah.
Even if you go to India, they'll never put a knife and fork out.
No.
You eat with your hands, right? And that in itself is another experience altogether, right?
It's safe for me. Like I had this experience with, I'll tell you one right now that's just vivid, like it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Was one with my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we used to go up in the mountains. He had this little cabin up in the mountains, and when I say up in it was like this little tiny cabin, and the two of us would go up and we'd water the tomato plants. So I'd just spend the summers there with him, and we'd go water the tomato plants. And I remember he would grab a tomato or two on the way up. We'd have to walk back up the mountain, and then we'd stop by so one of the guys that lived on his property, and they would trade eggs with us, and he'd
Yes.
get, a little bag full of eggs. It wasn't a there was no carton back then. It was literally a bag full of eggs, and he'd make me walk without cracking the eggs, and we'd walk up there with, I'd have a couple of tomatoes and a few eggs. We'd have enough for dinner, enough for breakfast. And then I remember one night him teaching me how to make pasta con uovos, pasta with eggs, right?
Yeah.
And like we literally put the tomato in the water while it boiled,
Yes.
right? As it was boiling, we cooking that. And then we take it out hot, and he showed me how to peel it. Right? You can imagine, I'm 5 or 6 years old, and I'm peeling a hot tomato,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And then we throw the pasta in there, we'd cook it, and right as we took it off, he'd take the egg and he'd crack it and put it in.
Nice.
He mixed that thing up, and he'd go in the back, and he had some cheese. He had this, we have that pecorino cheese that they would get from another one of the people that lived on his land, and
Yes.
a big wheel, and he'd cut it, and he'd grind that on there. He'd put a whole layer of that on there.
Yeah.
And here's what really was fun.
Mm.
He'd let me go back in the back and take a little pitcher and get him a little bucket of wine. Right. He had
Okay.
a little wine bucket back, and he'd let me take a little taste of that. Right.
Yeah.
And we'd sit and we'd eat pasta, and he'd let me have just a little bit of wine with some water. Right. And man, I'm telling you, I thought that was the most beautiful thing. I hear even today, I can still remember laughing with him in that time up in the mountains while we cooked that pot. That's one of the dishes I love to cook. It's easy. It's simple. It was just a few ingredients. It was simple, delightful food to eat together.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Where I remember my mom, saying, we're going to make chow mein, Guyanese, Cantonese chow mein. And so, you chop the carrots and the green beans, and I'll take care of the chicken, and then we'll do the noodles, and we'll do the flavorings and toss them all together. And learning how to cut those in the right shapes. Why was it that way? I don't know, but that's the way it was done. And then learning the order to put things into the pan so that, by the time it was all done, you could just take it all out and put it on a plate. And it was beautiful mixture of noodles, chicken, vegetables, and all kinds of flavor, right? And then
so the flavors and the visual, right?
Yes.
The colors.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Because you eat with your eyes first, right? So the colors is a festival of color followed by a festival of flavor, right? And of course, like most things in the Caribbean or in Guyana, we had pepper sauce on the table, like, North Americans would have salt and pepper. So you had to put some pepper sauce onto the noodles or the rice or whatever you were eating. Every day we either had rice or noodles. So, you would mix the pepper sauce just enough to awaken the flavors that are already there. Not to burn anything, but to awaken the flavors and go to another level of, wow, this is amazing flavor, right? So
hold on, audience members, you guys got to know one of the reasons why Anthony's on here is because I love he makes the world's best hot sauces. He's got a whole collection of them. He's got lemon, lime, and garlic, and he's got a scorpion one that'll bite you like a scorpion. But they just what he's talking about. He's got garlic. They're kind of flavors that it's kind of like a beautiful kiss, but with a little bit of a bite at the end. Like you got kissed by a beautiful girl, and you just got a little bite at the end on your lip, and it's just like a wonderful experience. Your hot sauces, they're not the kind of stuff that when you're done you don't suffer, but they awaken the beautiful flavors. And that was one of the other fun journeys you and I had, was trying out the different hot sauces on different types of food.
That's right. Exactly. And it's an amazing adventure because you can try with these different subtle changes to the flavors of the sauces. You can try different flavors to augment different dishes. So the lime pepper sauce goes really well with fish, with seafood. The garlic pepper sauce works amazingly well with, even a dish that is already heavy in garlic like a good garlic bread or a marinara or something, you can add this garlic pepper sauce and it'll be an amazing addition to it. The original pepper sauce works really well with meat, fish, whatever you want. And you just need a little bit, we always say start with a little bit and you can always add more, but you can't take it away if it's too much. So, start with a little bit and feel free to add more if you'd like. But what you're going after is just awakening the flavors of what's already on the plate and melding it so that eventually, I know people who can't eat noodles or rice now without a little bit of pepper sauce because they've gotten so used to the way that it works so well to open the flavors, right? You know that.
Well, look, you know how addicted I am. Audience, you got to come to my house, and I have so many of his hot sauces over here. It's silly, and the number of hot sauces I have. So one of the reasons why I love your hot sauces, it's just because it is all of that without the part where I've messed up. Where I've messed up, a dish by going too hot. Some of these hot sauces, they're kind of fun. You can challenge yourself and see how hot you can go. It's kind of fun, but it's not really a meal then. Then it's just more of a game.
Yep.
But Anthony, I got to really celebrate, and I want the audience to really get the celebration of food, right? What you're doing with Saver Guyana is really the bringing back the food of your roots, right? And how you're celebrating the beauty of those roots where you come from and bringing that back into the culture, bringing that back into the world and sharing that with the rest of us.
Yes.
Right. So it's a lot of fun. If people want to dive into your foods, if people want to order your hot sauce, where do they get it from?
So the Saver Guyana hot sauces are available on Amazon.com and Amazon.ca. So if you're in the States or in Canada, you can order it and have it delivered to your door overnight, basically, if you got Amazon Prime. That's the easiest way to get it. We also have the pepper sauces available in 2 places right now in the Greater Toronto area. So Ravi's and Jazz supermarkets, which are both located in Brampton on the west side of Toronto, they have the pepper sauces in stock there. We're looking in the coming time to expand a little bit more and look at some of the other places that, we want to explore. I've discovered some wonderful places like Sybil's, which is in Queens, New York. And there's another place called Alley West Indian Grocery in Belleville, New Jersey, that I've been following for a while, and I've loved to be able to go and visit with them and show them the sauces and tell them about them and maybe even get them to put the sauces on the shelves there. This past Christmas, one of the other dishes that is famous in Guyana and throughout the Caribbean is our black cake that's done at Christmas. And so, at Christmas time, while I was making the cakes and setting them out, we got a message from a lady. Her name is Anantha Davis. She lives in Shirley, New York, and she runs a business called Black Cake Magic. But she'd heard about our cake and she wanted to try it. So she sent an order and we sent her the cake and we sent her the pepper sauces, and said, hey, we're so glad to have the support of other Guyanese. She took it and she did a video in response the day that she got it. And she sent us a little video clip telling us how happy she was to receive it and looking forward to trying it, right? So there are people in the journey that I would never have met, but this experience for me has been a complete homecoming to come from the north of Ontario, where we had to bring food in a box, to now being able to experience the culture and flavor of Guyanese. I meet Guyanese, even when I came back from your place, from, Chicago on Sunday, I got out of the train and boarded a bus to come across the border. When I heard the accent come out of the mouth of the driver, I said, listen, you sound like you have an accent. Where are you from? And he looked at me and he says, you have the same flag on your shirt. So I was meeting 5 fellow Guyanese even there, right? So I gave him a card and I told him about the sauces, and he was like, great, that's wonderful. I'm happy to know, we'll go from there. This journey has also introduced us, thanks to technology, to wonderful chefs, even as far away as Guyana. There's a chef by the name of Delvin Adams, who has a place called the Backyard Cafe. He's on Facebook and all other social media as well. And so we follow him, and I've been able to talk to him through the miracle of WhatsApp and other gifts. And he's been an amazing support, and I'm trying to support him as well. We did a pepper sauce challenge when I was there with you. And so, take the weary pepper that is native to Guyana and pop them in your mouth. It's not going to burn your mouth, but it is going to fill your mouth with flavor immediately, right? So I sent that video down to him, and he's going to put that into some of his video promotions now and go from there, right? And you yourself, Anthony, you've been an amazing ambassador and support for this. So I'm really glad and thankful for your support through this entire journey. It's been a homecoming for me, and I'm happy to share it with others.
Well, you and Cindy mean the world to me. And as we look forward, I want to make sure we'll put all the links down to your website. We'll put all the links down to the Amazon, all down below. So audience members, when you can, go on there right now. Go buy the trio of hot sauces. Just go try it out. You want to do a fun gift for the holidays. Get your friends a black cake. They're a lot of fun. Something different, right? So literally a fun, something different to give them. People get bored by the same thing. Hey, look, chocolates are great, but look, it's kind of like one of those things that have been there, done that. Try an adventure. So, Anthony, I am so grateful for having you on the podcast today.
It's amazing. Thank you for the invitation. I look forward to many more encounters between us.
Keep up the great work at Saver Guyana, and just so grateful. So thank you.
Will do. Thank
All right.
you.
Hey, audience members, last week we had over 4,000 downloads. It was quite amazing how many of you guys were on the downloads. Such a gift to have you guys there, and Alyssa and Joe and all the team in the background that worked tirelessly to put this show together and really have a great guest like Anthony come on. If you could like and subscribe, the numbers do make a difference. It really helps us draw in some great characters to have on the show. So if you could do that right now, it'd mean the world to us. And if there's anything you're looking for a sponsor, or any of you guys want to be on the podcast, please be happy to comment down below or reach out to us. And we'd be grateful to have you or your ideas on the podcast. As always, thanks for being on, or thanks for listening.